Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Weekly Reads. I've had a mixed reading week. I started off the week having a really rough time of my TBR, and I had a wonderful 2 days of reading. So let's get to the books. So I started this week with Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay, and I'm incredibly torn about this novel. I have a mixed reading relationship with Kay. I bailed. I like what I read of A Song of Our Bone, but I also never actually finished it. I kind of put it down and never came back to it. And then I've tried the Fionavar Tapestry, his sort of Tolkien-inspired portal fantasy, I think twice, and I've failed each time. So, not the strongest reading relationship, I would say, but I've been meaning to get to Tigana and to reread A Song for Our Bone for years, and finally bit the bullet for the Read-A-thon, the reading Canadian fiction, because Guy Gabriel Kay is Canadian. And I'm torn. I liked the plot. I liked the world building. Kay's penchant for using Earth history or history as the foundation for his world building, I think is really strong and interesting and deep. But I didn't particularly care for the style, and I'm finding that I'm not really a huge fan of the style of science of fantasy in the 80s and 90s. This was published in 1990, and I didn't particularly care for the style, and some of the characters I didn't particularly care for, and I think maybe like a one. So basically, Tigana is about this peninsula that's inspired by Renaissance Italy. It is composed or several independent countries occupy this peninsula, and they have for centuries been fighting amongst themselves. About not quite 20 years before the story begins, the provinces, the states are invaded by two sorcerers, one of whom is a king, and the other is a mid-level nobleman from an empire. So basically, during the war, they carve the peninsula between themselves. The king is incensed by one of the last states to resist him, and he enacts a very cruel and vicious curse on this state. And so it's basically relations between the two sorcerers are tense, and the resistance against both who seek to free their independent city-states and provinces from these two tyrants basically eventually hit upon the idea to basically make the two fight, and then they could easily knock off whichever wins. And I think, as far as the resistance is concerned, there might have been too many characters that maybe Kay could have focused on just one to introduce, or to like sort of see the rebellion through that character's eyes. But anyway, also of note, and probably one thing that really bugged me about the book is that there are two gay characters or queer characters. And while given that this is a fantasy book from 1990, that there are two queer characters is awesome. Both characters are killed off in rather brutal fashion shortly after in their. So one character is killed off in her introducing her chapter, and then the other one is killed off within a few chapters, and they are both brutalized before their death. So that's uncomfortable, to say the least. The bury your gays trope, particularly as one character, his death really is basically a full-throated example of the bury your gays trope, and I found that rather distressing. But anyway, so that was Tigana. Rather torn about it. Moving on from Tigana, I read, started The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This book made all the rounds about 2 years ago. Widely praised, soon to be a movie, which might be coming out on Netflix instead of in the theaters. And of course, A.J. Finn is a rather controversial author. I bailed within a few chapters. And I think within 100 pages. I thought the writing is incredibly pedestrian, and the story itself is basically a rehash of any number of thriller novels, movies, and what have you. And I wasn't impressed. And I read this book largely because one of my aunts recommended it. She loved it. And my mom, that recommendation, read it and loved it too. So I'm like, I feel a little bad that I hate it. Anyway, let's toss it over there. And then I read Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Again, this was a book that one of my aunts read and then gave to my mom to read, and my mom loved it. And I've been wanting to read this book for years. I made the rounds on BookTube about 2 years ago, and I think it was largely quite enjoyed. If this book were just like a nature writing, was just like nonfiction nature writing, I would love it. But in the fiction side of it, the plot and the characters, the writing, was really disappointing. And particularly the dialogue between the characters was stilted and wooden. The plot just didn't really work for me, and yeah. So, yeah, very disappointing. Anyway, so So the first chunk of this reading week, very disappointing. And then I started the first book for the reading challenge. I did I filmed the TBR yesterday, and I started the first of the books yesterday because I wanted to get a head start on the reading challenge. And I started Post-Wall, Post-Square by Christina Spore. I'm 2 chapters in, and I am loving every moment of this book. It is just amazing. Cannot recommend this highly enough. It is a history of the end of the Cold War. And so the first chapter is really setting the stage of George H.W. Bush's relationship with Mikhail Gorbachev, and of the sort of reforms in the Soviet Union, and how the West sort of dealt with it, and also hints of the changes happening in Poland and Hungary, as well as the crackdown in Tiananmen Square. And then in chapter 2 focuses more on the ending of communism or communist rule in Hungary and Poland, and it is just amazing, particularly the Hungarian sections. That is just amazing. Cannot wait to continue reading this tomorrow and onwards. It is just amazing. I'm loving it. So I will be continuing reading Post-Wall, Post-Square this weekend, and I should probably finish it sometime early next week. So from there, I will probably be starting either Arabs by Tim Mackintosh-Smith or Empire of the Black Sea. And I will discuss which one I chose next Friday. And then obviously the one I didn't choose will be next. And I might even start both. Who knows? Anyway, so that was the reading I've done. I also watched The Women, as I mentioned last week, and rather enjoyed it. It's a rewatch. I've watched it 5 times, maybe more, and I really quite enjoy it, even though it does have its problems. Oh yeah, so this week I'll be watching The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to that. And I might see if I can watch another movie or something. But anyway. So that's my weekly reads. I'll go ahead and sign off now before I start to ramble. And I will see you definitely on Tuesday because I've got a few tags I want to do. The reread tag, and I think there's a few others. So Tuesday might be a very tag heavy day. Although I might do them on Monday. Since I do want to watch The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone, and it comes on at 1. So might do the tags on Monday instead of Tuesday. But anyway, I'll see you next week. Thank you, BookTube, and stay safe. And have a great weekend.